This guy is an absolute god. I don't know why you people are subscribed or watch me for high tier gameplay tips and tricks. You should go watch this guy. I mean, Mary Mother of Christ, a near 18 KD as an infantry player? Come on. I mean, this guy surely must be the best Battlefield player in history. And I mean the best. No Sharpie on console, no Rella, no anybody. jjhonn007 is the best player in Battlefield. It's just too bad that he's a dirty fucking cheat and is a gigantic disgrace to the entire community. Now, if you know who I am and if you know what I stand for as a person and as a player, you know that I don't witch hunt unless I'm given reason to. I may disagree with a lot of things and a lot of people, but I will never go out of my way to bash someone unless they truly deserve it. And when there are those situations and rare moments in which people actually deserve it, I make sure to have all of my opinions in order and go for the fucking jugular. I did it with Tier 1, I did it with Triple V, I'm going to do it now with this little pissbag named jjhonn007, a European domination player. I think he's from the Netherlands, with a superiority complex so gigantic that he has to cheat to maintain his precious stats. A couple of days ago, you might have seen this video pop up onto your recommendations feed, and this is a video from my friend SMK Gaming, and it's about a 20-minute video explaining how and to what extent John has been cheating in not just Battlefield 5, but for a long time in Battlefield 1 as well. I will of course link the video in the description so you can watch the video in its entirety. It goes far more in depth than I will. I'm just giving you the too long didn't watch version of his video, which again, you should watch if you haven't done already so. Essentially what John has been doing is he has been manipulating matches of Battlefield 5 by placing and controlling alternate accounts on the opposite team to which he is facing in said matches, and by doing so, he is not only able to see where enemy players are at all times, he can also artificially decrease his chances of losing by placing his alternate accounts on the other teams and having them not contribute to the team. What it allows him to do is leave games that he is losing and join back on the other team so he can win the match and boost his near perfect winning percentage, which, good God, can you imagine the day that he lost that perfect winning percentage? I mean, he must have cried himself to sleep like his mother just died. But moving on, this is really just the general description of what he's been doing. SMK's video has incredible evidence and it's very professionally done and organized, and while you're there, you should definitely check out his content. He streams very regularly and he is a very solid player and is well respected in the comp community, and I'm really happy he's getting the exposure that he is, because he does deserve it. He works very hard. Now, I asked SMK if I could make a video on the situation because naturally, like many other people, I wanted to tear John a new asshole so large that he could shove all 4 of his PlayStation 4s up there with ease, and as you can probably tell, I don't plan on being as nice to John as SMK was in his video, but I ran into a bit of a conundrum when writing the script for the video, which I actually had done a few days ago. What could I possibly add to the situation? What could I say that hasn't already been said about this player? Well, as fantastic as SMK's video is, I think he glossed over a little bit a piece of the puzzle, and that piece comes in the form of a question. Why is what John is doing or has been doing so bad, other than it makes him a spineless waste of life? And that's what I'm going to try and tackle today, because some of you may take a look at the situation and say, yeah, this John guy probably fucks the HDMI port of his PlayStation 4 with his micro penis as much time as he decides to spend with it, but what is he actually doing that's bad? He's just stat boosting at the end of the day, and yes, you're right about that to a certain extent. He's not hacking game code, he's not using Cronus scripts as far as we know, and if you don't know what a Cronus Max is a device that allows you to import scripts on your game, like rapid fire, no recoil, auto spot, etc. It's very popular in South America. Cronus Max is like water on a hot day in a dry desert to those Randys, but to the point, John is just manipulating and rigging public matches for stat whoring. Why is that so bad? Well, first of all, it's one thing to try and boost your stats, but it's a complete other thing when you use those stats to claim that you are the best player in the world. Secondly, John represents the pinnacle of a flawed thinking of the Battlefield community that I want to address today. 2 things, John. You aren't the best player in the world. You aren't even good enough to be the dog shit on my work boots. And secondly, your stats don't mean anything to anybody. We're not impressed by you. You see, the problem with jjhonn007 is that he thinks that stats make him good at the game, and that better stats mean a better player. And unfortunately, that's a mentality that a lot of players tend to take, including myself once upon a time. Kill-death ratio, kills per minute, score per minute, the skill ratio that used to be in all Battlefield games. whatever reason, people perceive these stats as the most accurate representation of how skillful you are at the game, and people use these stats to not only elevate themselves on public platforms, but to put down other players in the process as well. There's a lot of dick swinging that goes on, when in reality, your stats are there to provide personal feedback to how you are performing. Now, I never used my stats to put down other players, but I'm not afraid to admit that once upon a time, I used my stats to try and accumulate traction on YouTube. I used the fact that I was a top 10 player in the United States in score per minute to try and gather traction nearly every single time I streamed. I wasn't lying, I was really top 10 in score per minute for Battlefield 1 with about 4,000 score per minute at best, but did that make me a good player? No, not nearly as good as I thought I was, and today I see examples of other people doing that all the time. People claiming they are the best and that they are superior to everybody else. People claiming that they are these Battlefield gods, when in reality I know and play against some players that would make these guys, most of them adult men, cry. Don't believe me? Here are some examples of this guy named SoCal Love. He claims right front and center in all of his stream descriptions his name and the statement that he is one of the best Battlefield 5 players in the world. That's a pretty hefty claim. Does this guy look like one of the best Battlefield 5 players in the world to you?
High left. Or high right, excuse me. Right on above the stairs. I got one shot on him. Damn. Objective easy is lost. See ya. Copy? Yeah, let's go. One more spawn on him though. Delta next, Delta next. One Delta side. Well done, we are objective Charlie. Oh, I got hit by the Turner.
This guy is one of the best players in the game? Oh, I see. Here's a disclaimer all the way down in the description. One of the top score per minutes and one of the top score on objectives players in the game. Conquest MVPs and some other stuff crammed in on the bottom of the page. Now, that's all mighty impressive, my dude, but those stats don't tell the whole picture. There's no stat that says I stack lobbies with 10 to 16 of my own platoon members every night to dominate games. Do you all know how easy it is to do well when you have 10 to 16 platoon members every night on your side to dominate games? Do you all know how easy it is to do well when you have those same players sweating like this every single day? I mean, look at the ticket counter in the video. I know that it's potato quality. I had to strip it. I'm still not quite sure how I was able to do it. They're destroying them. You get picked up almost every time you go down, dude, and you still have 8 deaths already in the video. I mean, pub stacking this hard is like the Golden State Warriors playing against a junior high basketball team and then bragging that they beat them so badly. There isn't anything to brag about here. There's no challenge in pub stacking, and with all due respect, Mr. SoCal, I know that you are doing this with your clickbait, but you aren't one of the best players in the world. But I'm not trying to beef with you, because in reality, I'm still focusing on little bitchy John over here. My point is that stats bring undeserved egos that are far from the reality of the situation. Check this conversation that a former teammate of mine, Alpha, had with our old pal John here. In this screenshot, you see John crying for a revive multiple times, and then saying that he's the best. Now, this is just from not getting a revive from a man. Imagine getting an ego so huge that you take the time to message somebody, on an actual good player, mind you, and demand revives from them. Who the fuck are you, John? So, here's the realization, ladies and gentlemen. Your stats don't matter. They may give you a general idea of what type of player somebody is, but in general, your stats don't matter. Every single stat in the game can be manipulated by what game mode you play, what class you play, what gun you use, and how fast you play the game. Playing support is going to give you the most score per minute because of how many points you get off of supplying ammo, and combine that to being an objective player and getting your high score per minute, and that's just one example of how you can boost your stats. So you can have a support player that plays nothing but breakthrough and domination and does nothing but camp on objectives for points and kills, and he'll have pretty good stats. But you could also have another support player that runs around the map on conquest and still gets a fair amount of kills, no deaths, but has a less impressive KD and SPM because in conquest you aren't always on or around an objective like breakthrough. Does that mean one player is better than the other? No, but there are a lot of people that would take a look at the stats and think that player 1 is better because his stats are better, and that's the problem that I'm trying to point out. Your stats don't mean anything, so it's time that we all stop pretending that they do. This is why you will see a bunch of huge pump-stopping clans and players try their hands at competitive, and then they will get their shit pushed in and wonder why, and call us comp players hackers and cheaters because their stats are too good. They are too good of a player. They couldn't have lost, and they don't understand that it's a whole different ball game when they are actually playing against players that are just as good and oftentimes much better than they are. Meanwhile, there's this piece of trash named John who cares so much about his stats that he puts alternate accounts on opposite teams so he can rig public lobbies and boost his stats, just so he can be on top of the Battlefield Tracker leaderboards, just so he can call himself the best player when he isn't anywhere close to that. The fact that this man, if you can call him that, is cheating his way to the top of the scoreboard sets a bad precedence for what a good player looks like, and it also sends a clear message as to how toxic this community is when it comes to putting oneself on a pedestal over somebody else. And that's not good for the health of the player base, and that is why what John has been doing is so bad. It gives good players a bad name, and it ruins the integrity of competition, and it advocates the completely idiotic idea that your stats are what define what a good player should be. As for John, I hope the heat from all 4 of your PlayStation 4s keep you warm in bed at night and you can fuck right off and out of this community. It's just a video game, dude. Good luck finding a job with the best Battlefield player being at the top of your resume. So with that being said, that's the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I know this is more negative than what my content is, and I don't like that, but this is one of those rare occasions where I felt that like I needed to make this video. Special thanks to SMK for allowing me to talk about the content in his video, and again, the link is in the description if you want to watch that in its entirety. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, turn on post notifications, and my name is Nick or Catalyst, and I will see you all another time.